So in this week's upload, we've got one of the best questions we've had in quite some time. So Stuart asks, how long did it take to go from zero experience to having consistent profit? I see that you were in the army before, I'm currently serving and I have zero experience trading. I'm just looking at it all and it looks so confusing, but it's something that I'm interested in trying. So this one's poked my eye out in the comments for several reasons. First of all, it's something I'm passionate about. Obviously I can answer the question for you, but not only can I answer the question in terms of how long it took me to do it, but I can offer some information which is basically going to allow you to do it a lot quicker if that's something you choose to pursue. Also, it's a topic that I think, it appeals to absolutely everybody watching this video. Now, when I started out, I had nothing. I was a young lad in the army. I think I was 24, earned about 28k a year. Child on the way, extremely stressful, a lot of pressure, and on first glance it seemed extremely confusing to me too. One of the first things that I've seen someone suggest, which is always a good tip if you're not understanding the ladders straight away, is put your left ear on the desk, and suddenly you almost see what looks like the Betfair website because the numbers go up and down rather than side to side. So that aside, in this clip I want to go through 3 different things that I think can help you the most. First of all, how long it took me and why it took me that long, because I don't feel like I took the shortest path, how it can be done as quickly as possible, and the things that you need to focus on to do that, and then finally what you need to do to reach consistency, because consistency should be the end goal, no question. Now, before we go into the actual video, there's a couple of points to mention. Look, if you're really new into trading, and this is extremely basic level that you're worried about now, then I would suggest reading this little book that's on Amazon. It's very easy, it's a simple book. It's nothing too in-depth, it's extremely cheap, it's about 8 or 9 quid. We'll put a link in the description below. Also, if you don't want to pay 8 quid or whatever it is, there's a free resource on my website with the beginner school section. Again, we'll put that link in the description below. And finally, if you're serious about this and you want to make money, then I'd advise checking out the video pack course, which is a bit more advanced, a bit more expensive, but again, that link will be in the description below too. But over to the question. First of all, how long did it take me to become consistent on Betfair's exchange? In terms of time, it's a little bit blurry and a little bit vague because I didn't keep great results early on, and I don't think many people do. I think that's a common trait, which is also a bit of a mistake. But the actual time period, I think until I made some kind of consistent progress, would have been 6 to 8 months. It was around about a year until I was making profit. But I went through a phase where, looking back on it, it's extremely clear now. It's always easier to see afterwards and join the dots after, but I was consistent, I was profitable, I did have an edge, and I did know what I was doing, but the odd foobar meant that I really drew myself back, which is a common thing that happens to people. It feels like 3 steps forward and then one massive leap backwards back to the start, and that happened several times over the following sort of 6 months, year. So it's all a little bit blurry, but I would say until I had an edge and I was getting consistent, about a year. And I knew what I was doing, even though I confused myself and tripped myself up at times. Now, a lot of the reason for that is because I focused on the wrong thing for the wrong period of time. And a realization point come for me, it's kind of like a tipping point, and I've mentioned it in a previous video, a very old video on YouTube, I don't even know where it is anymore. Basically, I had this day where I rushed home and I was in a hurry to get trading like people do, because we've got a limited amount of time to learn, particularly if you've got a 9-to-5 job. And I think I had an appointment, I don't know if it was dentist or something like that, but I rushed in, I traded a couple of races and I had to rush out, and the end result was I just did everything in a rush and I cocked it all up. Unsurprisingly, scruffed my car on the way to the appointment, which then made me more frustrated, and I said to myself at the end of it, look, this is the point, you either carry on and do this and chill out and get more, and keep control of that consistency, don't do such irrational, idiotic things, or you knock it on the head. And that was pretty much the point where the scales tipped and it became a more consistent slow burner for me. But a large part of that realization was realizing not only do you need an edge in the markets, some strategy, understanding, but you need to have self-control too. So once you hit that kind of like eureka moment, or whatever you want to call it, of realizing that you've got to stop making things hard for yourself, which is a large part of the battle, believe it or not. I know it sounds cliche, I know some people might feel frustrated at that, but that is the reality of the situation, okay? You need to get efficient, you need to get focused, you need to do the right thing in the right order. And so I extended my my period of sort of 0 to 100k a year by self-harming, if you like. It sounds a little bit drastic, I know, but efficiency is everything, and you need to think about efficiency in terms of learning as well as in the market. So we want an efficient strategy because you don't want to waste any money. And in fact, there's a very good video on YouTube, we'll put in the link wherever, or top at the bottom in the cards, about psychology. And if you take all of your results and you just basically save yourself a tick here and there and you add them all up over a period of time, the difference between the two results bottom line is massive. So you need to be efficient, and you need to be focused. You need to actually decide you want to do this, right? If you're trading, if you're learning to trade, it's not something you're going to be able to do on the side at the weekend, half-assed, not really bothered, have a little dabble here, have a little dabble there, and expect to walk away with a Lamborghini. It doesn't work like that, okay? So focus, and that's one thing which I don't talk about a huge amount, but I had like quite a strong work ethic in terms of learning in the early stages, which certainly helped me. But there's no point doing it the hard way. There's no point throwing every hour God sends at it, getting obsessed about it, and reading all of the wrong things, or checking out the wrong resources and looking at flashy numbers and clicking here, there, and everywhere where you don't really understand what's going on, or you're not controlling yourself. So first of all, that was how long it took me. The second point, how fast can it be done? Well, a hell of a lot quicker than I did. I think typically for people, some people never become successful, by the way. In fact, a large portion of people that attempt to trade don't actually succeed. That's just the reality of it. I'm not trying to blag you or anything like that. But if you want the shortest path, then you need to focus on having an edge, being able to read the markets and understand what the driving force is behind price activity, the indicators that influence that, no question, and controlling yourself. So you need that focus on the right thing. So what are the right things? Well, in terms of learning, there's lots of different things we can choose to focus on, but I think it's important to remember a couple of different sort of crucial rules, if you like. The first one is, whenever there's an issue with your learning process or something within trading that you may routinely do, you need to focus on fixing it at source. So what do I mean by that? If we take the example where I rushed in from work, I had a limited amount of time to trade, and then I rushed out to the appointment. It led to me maybe making some rash decisions, which then spiraled, and I might have got a bit more frustrated and made a bigger mistake. I certainly did with pranging my car. That was another loss, which I didn't even, incorporate into the whole trading situation. But rather than repeat that process and go, oh, that was a mistake, then it's good to set yourself some definable boundaries in terms of when you are trading, when you're not trading, what that environment looks like, what it doesn't look like. If you've got your missus coming in halfway through, then that's going to be counterproductive to what you're doing. If you've got to go to a dentist appointment, likewise. So fix all the problems at source, make a big effort to do that as you go forward. Understanding that there is no shortcut, really, and that is the biggest shortcut or hack, if you like, to learning to trade. So understanding that it is going to be a slightly lengthy process, 3, 6, 9 months at the minimum, I would suspect, then you know that it's going to take that long, so it stops you from making foolish short-term decisions whereby you're kind of expecting just to stumble across this magic formula that's just going to instantly give you cash. It doesn't work like that. And then last of all, I suppose, to hold yourself accountable, it's always a good idea to consistently ask yourself, is this my best use of time in terms of learning to trade? Because it's highly likely that people, I see it, and I comment on Twitter too, but people browse through Twitter, they read something from some anonymous stranger which could be sending them off in the wrong direction, and they focus their energy on that. That's not the best use of time. What would be a better use of time? Looking at the markets and going, what are the limiting characteristics to this market? And then not letting up on that. So if you come up to one conclusion, that's fine, but then, press yourself again logically as to what was that conclusion and why, and does, and then either prove or disprove that theory within the market. But is it your best use of time in terms of learning? So that's probably the best things I can do to give you the fast track to learning, apart from saying, obviously, check out the resources I've mentioned and the course. And then finally, reaching consistency the quickest possible way, which we've already touched on really there, but consistency should be the goal. So I'm glad that you asked that within the question there, Stuart, I think it was, because consistency is more important than anything. So if you're not efficient with £5 stakes, you're not going to be efficient with £50 stakes. You're certainly not going to be efficient with £500 stakes. Okay, people get lost into this view of more money, larger trades means it's going to get easier for some reason, and it's complete opposite. It's bull. Okay, it gets harder as time goes by, and you use larger stakes and you push the boundaries further and further. But minimise that loss and that waste early on, and it will pay you back tenfold further down the line, I guarantee it. Already touched on it as well, but don't necessarily accept those conventional truths that are sort of kind of fed to you by the media, like, about form and all that kind of stuff. Look for a logical reason based on data, fact, information in the markets. Look at the ladders, people's behaviour, why people behave in a certain way, which is a huge part of the market too. And as I said right at the beginning there, I can't believe I nearly forgot this one out too. Make sure you record what you're doing. Keep records of your results, good, bad, indifferent. Try and analyse and understand those results. If you're losing consistently in a certain situation, I don't know, the first race of the day, why is that? Are you losing more in handicaps? Why is that? And work backwards from the problem, and you'll find the answer as quick as you possibly can a lot of the time. And then lastly, just to say about motivation, because I think a lot of people, and it certainly happened to me in the early stages, like I said, you take the 3 steps forward and then you take a big leap back, or you make a stupid mistake, and it can really knock your motivation. But just understand that early on you are going to have to sort of like push and be a little bit forceful in terms of motivation and getting it done, even if you enjoy the process, which is really important too, because it makes it a lot easier. But motivation needs to be forced a little bit first, and then once you start to see some results, you'll find that you can't step away from it. In fact, I've heard other people mention it and say it's like having an ATM in your spare room. Once you become successful, I'm talking about now, obviously, but you'll find that you can't keep away from it once you start to succeed. So that's pretty much all I've got to say in answer to your question there. I know I've gone off on a tangent. I hope it was helpful. There's lots of things in there, and I'd love to elaborate on all of them, but we'd probably be here for hours if I did that. The best thing that you can do now probably is to watch the psychology video at the end of this screen here, because that is a large part of trading consistently and going from zero to maximum profit in the shortest space of time. So please check that one out. That'll make a lot of sense to you.